The exploitation of Africa's cultural riches during the colonial era stands out as a chapter marked by injustice and loss in the continent's lengthy history. Numerous artifacts were taken from their communities, their tales hushed, and their meaning altered. These artifacts ranged from exquisitely carved masks and glittering sculptures to common implements and sacred objects. Reclaiming stolen narratives, demanding proper return, and piecing together the shattered tapestry of African identity are all important topics of discussion today. This investigation explores the dark sides of exploitation as well as the embers of resistance, the efforts at repatriation, and the resolute spirit of a continent recovering its proper place in history. This brings us to our video of today: the UK to loan back Ghana's crown jewels. How is it possible that instead of returning the jewels, the UK is instead loaning them back to the owners? This demonstrates a pattern of historical artifacts being repatriated from Europe, the Middle East, and the Americas. However, how can other nations guarantee that their cultural treasures are returned and preserved for future generations to view? Make sure you watch this video till the end, as we will uncover everything you need to know on this topic. We are also going to talk of another African country that is demanding the return of its artifacts from Germany. Without wasting much of your time, let's get started. As UK institutions face mounting pressure to turn over treasures obtained during an era when the British Empire ruled over people all over the world, the Victoria and Albert Museum and the British Museum are returning looted gold and silver artifacts to Ghana under a long-term loan arrangement. The returning items include a 300-year-old Mpampanso sword used in Asantehene swearing-in ceremonies, a gold peace pipe, and cast gold soul washers badges, among other treasures. A total of 32 artifacts were removed in 1874 following the Third Anglo-Asante War. 15 of these came from the British Museum and 17 from the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. They will be on exhibit at the Manhaya Palace Museum in Kumasi, the capital of the Asantehene Kingdom, for 3 years, with the possibility of extending the loan for another 3 years. The important cultural partnership was announced on January 24 by the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, the British Museum, and the Manhaya Palace Museum in Ghana. Many national museums in the UK are legally prohibited from permanently returning contested items in their collections. This is why the items, which have been described as part of the national soul of Ghana, are being loaned rather than given back. Loan agreements like these are viewed as a means of enabling artifacts to return to their countries of origin. But before we continue, it will be important to know how these objects reached the UK in the first place. These items were stolen in violent circumstances by British soldiers. Some other reports say the items came to the British Museum from 1887 to 1982 by a variety of means such as donations, purchases, bequests, military and private booty, and sales. The British Museum claimed to have purchased some of these objects, some of which were connected to the dispute of 1874. Among these were 24 items purchased directly from the London goldsmiths R&S Girard & Co. in 1874, who were tasked with selling the indemnification items. The British Museum and Golden Stool of Asante reaffirmed their Memorandum of Understanding in October 2023, pledging to work together amicably on projects that will benefit both parties in the areas of culture, heritage, and museums. This has led to the new partnership between the British Museum and the Manhaya Palace Museum. The British Museum has said that this loan is part of exhibitions to celebrate the Asantehene's Silver Jubilee, as well as commemorations to mark the 150th anniversary of the 1874 Anglo-Asante War and the 100th anniversary of the return of Asantehene Prempeh, the first to Kumasi following his exile to the Seychelles by the British in 1896. Bear in mind that this came almost after half a century of discussions between Manhaya Palace, especially with the British Museum. This deal is not enough for many people in Ghana, who have taken to social media and local radio to complain that the deal is akin to a thief agreeing to loan back stolen goods. Some Ghanaians criticize the agreement as a mere loan instead of permanent repatriation, raising concerns about the artifacts' eventual return to their original holders. Ghana is the owner of these artifacts. You cannot loan out what you stole. Some others celebrate the return of the artifacts, viewing it as a crucial step towards reclaiming their cultural heritage and ancestral connection to these precious objects. They express hope that the return of the artifacts could boost tourism and cultural awareness, generating economic benefits for the country. What is the purpose of law when it comes to theft? Is it not to punish the perpetrators? Why then is Britain saying it has laws that make them not to return stolen goods? This is white supremacy at its peak and a strong colonial mentality. Ghanaians are saying the British should stop saying that the loan is in the best interest of both countries. It doesn't have to work that way. How about taking their crowns from their rulers and keeping them in Ghana to be given to them after 3 years? Will they see that as best interest as well? Definitely not. These laws were put in place in their favor and could be changed or amended. The question we should be asking ourselves now is, what happens when the loan is not renewed after the given 3 years? Does this mean that it will have to be returned to Britain? What baffles many Ghanaians and Africans now is how that type of deal was approved. Would it be okay to say the Manhaya Palace has been brainwashed to accept this deal? However, while some might advocate for immediate and permanent repatriation, the Manhaya Palace might have strategic reasons for accepting a loan first, such as building trust, demonstrating responsible custodianship, or paving the way for future repatriations. Negotiating the loan agreement for the Asante gold artifacts undoubtedly involved extensive discussions, weighing various factors like cultural significance, potential benefits, and risks. These discussions have been going on for over 50 years, so one might say everything has been put in place. Bear in mind that this is not the first time the British government has engaged in agreements for the return or loan of cultural artifacts to other countries. The Smithsonian Institution, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the German government announced they were returning scores of sculptures, plaques, and ornaments known as the Benin bronzes that British soldiers had plundered in 1897 from Benin City in what is now Nigeria. Under a July 2022 agreement, Germany promised to return around 1,100 bronzes from 20 of its museums, and both sides agreed on the importance of making the works accessible to the public. But it is said that just 22 have been handed over to Nigeria. Nigeria has since been proactively clinching agreements for returns with institutions in the United States, Germany, Ireland, and Britain, including the University of Aberdeen, the Church of England, the Fowler Museum in Los Angeles, the National Museum of Ireland, and Berlin's Ethnologisches Museum. Ghanaian officials have been keeping an eye on the paced developments in Nigeria over the Benin bronzes. Another complicated case is the ongoing controversy regarding the Elgin marbles, Parthenon masterpieces that are currently kept at the British Museum. Greece has long advocated for their repatriation, but the British Museum contends that London is the finest place to see and protect them. Even though an agreement hasn't been reached yet, continuing talks and probable financing could provide a way out. Why are these colonial masters holding on to these artifacts of different countries? The justification for colonial acquisitions was frequently civilizing missions and the need to protect artifacts from alleged damage or neglect. Even though this way of thinking is being heavily challenged, it nevertheless affects how certain organizations see ownership and repatriation. Some museums argue they provide the best environment for preserving and showcasing artifacts, making them accessible to broader audiences and fostering cultural understanding. However, this perspective is increasingly challenged by arguments for cultural ownership and community access. Fortunately, growing awareness of historical injustices and the importance of cultural ownership is prompting many institutions to re-evaluate their collections and engage in dialogues with communities seeking repatriation. Recent agreements like the Benin bronzes and Ho-Hakananaya statue returns mark significant steps in this direction. Whatever the case, countries with stolen artifacts from other countries need to return them. This can only be different in the case where the country of origin is not demanding them. Honest communication is a crucial link between the institutions that house the treasures and the communities that want their cultural rights restored. It's more than just a light conversation. It's a process that requires commitment, subtlety, and the courage to face hard realities. Open dialogue recognizes that viewpoints will differ. Museums might prioritize preservation and universal access, while communities might emphasize cultural ownership and ancestral connections. Finding common ground lies in respectful discussion, exploring compromise avenues, and seeking solutions that honor both perspectives. A country should not just say it has laws that make them not to return artifacts. As we mentioned earlier, these laws can be amended. Repatriating stolen antiquities is a marathon endeavor that requires steadfast dedication and is fraught with complexity. It's a path in which cooperation prepares the way for cultural restitution, open communication creates connections, and research reveals narratives that have been silenced. The return of Ghana's looted crown jewels, while celebrated as a victory for cultural restitution, stands not as the final destination, but a crucial step on a longer journey. This loan agreement, though temporary, marks a significant shift in the narrative surrounding colonial acquisitions and the rightful ownership of cultural treasures. For Ghanaians, the return signifies a reconnection with their ancestral past, a chance to reclaim silenced stories and reassert their cultural identity. While concerns regarding the loan's temporary nature and broader issues of repatriation remain, this agreement undoubtedly marks a positive precedent. Even though there are still obstacles to overcome, this initial step toward their return offers a glimmer of hope and is evidence of the resilience of cultural heritage and the unwavering will of communities fighting to restore their proper position as the guardians of their own stories. The echoes of these artifacts whisper not only of loss, but also of resilience, demanding our attention and motivating us to work toward a future where cultural treasures find their rightful home, embraced and shared in a spirit of respect and understanding. Keep this in mind as the conversation continues and more steps are taken. What do you think will happen after the first 3 years of the loan? Would these artifacts be returned to Britain? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Turn on notifications too so you get notified whenever we upload videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.